Hello friends, it's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums today with another tarot spread video. And like I've stated before in other videos, you don't have to just use tarot cards. You can use other decks if that is something that you feel more inclined to utilize. I just prefer using tarot cards. It's something that works better for me and these spreads. So today I'm going to be doing the Rediscovering Yourself spread. I think as we're kind of moving into Aries season and some of these planets are moving and changing signs, and we're kind of getting out of Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde. I think a lot of us are kind of feeling the sense of trying to figure out who we are, where we're at. And I think that this is a wonderful spread to help you feel a little bit more connected in different ways. So let's do a little sample reading, and then I'll just kind of show you how I would lay this out. And again, you can always do whatever you want. Be ungovernable, basically. But I do like to share different things that have helped me and that I find are very different and unique spreads to kind of connect to yourself a little bit more on your own personal journey. So first two cards are going to be like very similar in the sense of you're going to be asking the same question for their positions. So we're going to talk about what parts of me have been silent. So this will give you an opportunity to kind of focus on two different elements within yourself that you feel have been silent. So, all right, so I'm going to kind of call myself out here. So here we go with cards 1 and 2. So what parts of me have been silenced? I have the Sun reversed. And then we're also going to do card number 2, the 8 of Cups reversed. So we're just going to kind of lay those out there. All right, so now card number 3 is going to be, how can I begin to express these parts? We have Death reversed. We have a lot of reverse cards here. Card number 4 is going to be, what obstacles will I face? So here we have the Devil reversed. And then where can I find support and encouragement is going to be card number 5. So where can I find support and encouragement? The 8 of Pentacles reversed. So hopefully everything is in frame and you guys can see. I'm trying to do it to like where you guys can see it good. Okay, so I'm going to kind of do my sample reading like I do with a lot of these tarot spread videos that I've been putting together, because I think that it helps to kind of see the spread in action. So remember, the first two cards are going to be the same question that we've asked, which is what parts of me have been silenced. So here we have the Sun, we have the 8 of Cups reversed. So if I were to look at this as the Sun, and in relation to the question, which is what parts of me have been silenced, is maybe I haven't really allowed myself to express my joy. Maybe I haven't allowed myself to have fun, to really find ways to connect to the things that make me feel like I can shine, like I can really show up in things that feel warm and joyful, and all of the things that I think of the Sun, where there is typically this kind of energy that is like allowing us to rediscover different things within ourselves, whether it's like, what is it that, you know, makes us feel connected to who we are and our purpose? What makes us feel like we can really truly shine in different ways? With this being what parts of me have been silenced and it being reversed, is that maybe this is an indicative kind of energy that says that maybe I'm the one that is putting more of this pressure on myself to kind of not allow myself to really truly shine, to not really step out and do things that do feel good, or that do feel like I am allowed to have these moments in my life. And it's interesting because I've shown you guys my astrological chart, and I'm actually a Leo rising, which is to me very much associated with the energy of the Sun, right? There's like this beautiful energy that kind of comes through where it's very much like you got to shine, you got to kind of show up in like those things. You have to be a little bit more heart-centered in different aspects and elements of your life. Now, this being a major card is that maybe it does really, play out into various elements and aspects and situations in my life. I kind of feel like I was someone that had to grow up very, very quickly. So I really don't know what it's like to relax without guilt. I don't really know what it's like to not constantly be doing something that is for the betterment of everything in my life, whether that is with like my YouTube channel, whether that is like with some of my other businesses that I have going on, with my family. I always feel like this call to constantly be working. So there is a little bit of this kind of energy that kind of comes with this, that I'm kind of seeing. And I just think it's funny that these cards always want to call me out. So I guess it is what it is. So if you were to pull this card upright, I would say that maybe other people don't feel comfortable with you shining and being yourself and kind of showing up in these authentic ways, which that could also be something that you could kind of consider, is that maybe other people don't feel comfortable with you really being your authentic and full self. So there are different ways that you can kind of read this, because again, this is about rediscovering yourself. This is really a way to kind of reconnect to yourself in different ways. So the second card, because it's the same question, it's going to be what parts of me have been silenced. We have the Eight of Cups reversed here. And so the Eight of Cups is typically a card of like emotionally moving on, maybe feeling like you're done with something, kind of feeling like you are ready to kind of, pick your own adventure, basically. And I think with the Eight of Cups reverse is that maybe it's saying that maybe I haven't had a lot of choices. Maybe there's been some daydreams or illusions that I haven't really had an opportunity to really like tune into and follow through on. So maybe those are ways that I feel like I have been silenced. And again, just for a little bit of context and why I feel like this card is really relevant to this position for myself personally, I had to leave home at 17 and grow up very quickly. I, became a late teen mother, but I had my son when I was 19. So there's been a lot of this sense of I didn't really have a choice in how things were going to shape out for me. I've had to just kind of roll with the punches. So I see why this energy is here, is that maybe emotionally I haven't always had the opportunity to choose to walk away from certain situations, or I have felt very stuck in I have to choose, if that makes sense. Where I have felt like even if emotionally I didn't feel prepared for certain things, I still had to walk away from certain situations. I've had a lot of very intense family relationship stuff, lack of support, things like that have really shaped and kind of directed where my life was headed and how my life has turned out, which is fine. At the time, I didn't think it was fine, but now with a little bit of time and distance, I can see the wisdom in my life shaping out the way that it has. So I can kind of see these two energies as I have felt a little bit victimized by the element of not really being able to shine as my true self or really be myself in some ways, because maybe I felt like it made other people uncomfortable or made people feel like I was trying to maybe take over what they were trying to do with their lives, if that makes sense. As well as maybe feeling like emotionally I couldn't always choose to walk away in the ways that I wanted to, or maybe I've had to make a lot of hard emotional choices, which can then again make it more challenging because we're here to feel the full spectrum of human emotion. So there have been a lot of relationships and connections in my life that have kind of shaped the path that I've been on, if that makes sense. So these cards are very apt and they do make a lot of sense for me at this moment. So we move on to card number 3, which is this one. It's going to be, how can I begin to express these parts? Now, I did pull the Death card, and I'm going to assume that this is a reversed kind of sense of it. And so this is like the card of rebirth, transformation, This can be very much a card of like letting go, like metamorphosis. There's a lot of different keywords that we can utilize with the energy of death. And with this being the card that's kind of saying like, hey, this is, how can I begin to express these parts of me that have not had an opportunity to really allow me to shift into the things that I want? We have death or rebirth, but this being reversed is that maybe the thing is, it's not so much in letting them go. I would kind of like translate this in the sense of maybe I don't need to just kind of like kill everything off and start fresh every time, or I don't always need to walk away from everything in such a way that maybe seems very dramatic. And again, a little bit of context. I have often walked away with nothing in previous relationships that have failed, just to have the relationship end. I have, even like with my family, things of that nature. I left for the military when I was 17. And I literally left with just like a backpack of clothes. I left everything else behind and lost everything. So it's, one of these things where, even when I was in my early 20s and I was divorcing my first husband, I just kind of literally left with what could fit in my vehicle. It was very dramatic and things like that. So it was just very interesting to get this card in this position, because it's almost saying like, how can I begin to express these parts? It's almost saying like, hey, the way you've been doing it is maybe not the best way, but sometimes to me, like, my freedom meant more to me than items that I had collected. And I'm a Taurus, so like you guys should know. And I also have a Cancer moon, so I'm a sentimental little fucker, basically. So it's one of these things where I've had to just say, that's it. I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to move on. It's holding me back. It's holding me down. I'm not going to let things be something that keep me from being able to move into the next phase. So maybe this is kind of saying like, I haven't really allowed myself to process like the death of some of these things, or maybe I haven't really connected enough in some ways to what it meant for some of these chapters to end in the ways that they have. And so I think it's very interesting, because I think if I were to kind of sit down and journal about this, I'm sure a lot of stuff would really come up. And then when I really think of like what death reversed means, is that maybe I haven't really been allowing that transformation. I haven't really been allowing a metamorphosis for me to really move into this energy, because maybe it is something that does feel very uncomfortable for me, because for so long I've had to choose not to do these things, if that makes sense. I've had to choose the path of least resistance, we'll call it. So I feel like this, it's almost saying like, maybe I need to kind of like go back in, and I need to kind of process and let go and really move on from certain things. And that is something that I've been really considering, because I'm in my 40s now, right? I'm about to come into my 42nd year. And so I'm in this phase of really wanting to just like let go of so many things, because I'm like, I've been here for almost half of a century. Like, I need to get some shit figured out, right? All right, so if we move on to card number 4. So what obstacles will I face? We have the Devil reversed. Again, all these reverse cards I feel are very much pointing to that internalized, introspective, kind of really focusing on my own lessons within myself. And the Devil is very much this energy and this card that reminds us that maybe we are the ones that are kind of chaining ourselves to something. It's very much the card of like the workaholic, the alcohol, the person that maybe struggles with addiction, whether that is like with the physical things, whether that is with like the, mental gymnastics and mental addictions that we may have. Maybe even someone that has kind of kept themselves stuck in a loop or patterns that maybe are no longer beneficial for them. So this being reversed, I think, again, it's almost saying like the obstacles that I'm facing aren't so much like the physical external things around me, because I will say this, I'm someone who does not imbibe. I've been, really trying to live a sober life for the last like 12 years. I don't really associate myself with like different things that I feel would be addictive patterns for myself, not just for health reasons, but also for just mental reasons as well, just because I know myself and I have struggled with addiction in the past. So I think with the devil reversed here, it's like, what obstacles do I face is maybe that internalized thing of like, I think when someone has problems with addiction, we find other ways to cope. And I feel, as someone who's very emotionally and energetically sensitive, that maybe one of my biggest addictions is like victimhood or, oh, woe is me kind of vibe in some ways. And I'm trying to learn how to remove myself from those patterns of feeling very stuck and feeling very like, oh, well, these people did this to me, and this is why everything else didn't work out, and blah, 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 blah. That kind of energy. I have been able to do it in certain relationships, but there are certain things that have happened, even like within the last year, that have made it very challenging because it kind of brings up that stuff again. And so I feel like with the devil, it's almost saying like maybe I've been too focused on the earthly realm of things and the physical things. And so I'm not really paying attention to the other aspects and the other elements that may be playing into this. So I think with the obstacles that I may face are going to be much more of this like internalized shame, this internalized pattern of feeling chained and tied to things and not really understanding that I have a lot of free will and I have a lot of freedom to really choose how I want to move forward. All right, so let's move on to card number 5, which is where can I find support and encouragement? Again, another reverse card. So here we have the 8 of Pentacles. So the 8 of Pentacles reversed is typically a card that talks about hard work, dedication, honing like our zone of genius, really focusing on what we know and kind of moving into that energy. Now, with this, I feel like it's almost saying that the support will be more so in how I perhaps allow other people to see me as just a regular person and not feeling like I have to have this presentation of knowing everything and understanding everything and having it all figured down pat, and stop feeling like I have to be at a certain level in order to deserve support from others and encouragement from others, because that is another thing that I really do struggle with as well is, even like with trying to do YouTube, I was like, well, I don't have this and I don't know how to do this and I don't know how to do that. And I'm still trying to figure it out, but I really appreciate those that watch and those that enjoy the stuff that I've been posting. I am someone that really loves to share information and info dump. Maybe it's autism, maybe it's the ADHD, maybe it's just being a woman in the 21st century. It is one of these things where I'm like, I just want to share what I've learned and what I have found and what interests me, and hopefully, spark that fire for somebody else so that they can kind of rediscover things within themselves. So I think with this card, where it's saying like, where can I find support and encouragement, and being the 8 of Pentacles reverses, that maybe I need to stop putting so much pressure on myself to have it so neatly packaged and ready for everybody else to consume, if that makes sense. Because that's another thing, is I feel like I can't really share things until I have processed them enough and filtered them down enough that it is something that no longer hurts me, or something that I am like, I'm over it. I have like the internal door slam. It's done. I no longer feel like a sense of connection to that energy any longer. So I think with this card, it's really saying that maybe I need to kind of stop putting so much pressure on it to have it so figured out. Life is messy, and life is in constant motion, and we're here to walk each other home basically, and kind of connect with one another in different ways. And so I think this card is kind of saying, like, maybe I need to stop being so focused on having it all together, having it all like make sense where I'm at, and just kind of be okay with being supported as I'm kind of waiting to figure out what comes next and what I'm going to do with this. So, and I feel like the Pentacles cards are also very much about like our behavior. So maybe it's kind of saying, like, maybe I need to stop feeling like I need to have my behavior figured out in order for me to receive the support as I'm kind of processing things. So that's kind of how I would read the spread. Of course, I'm always getting tattled on by my cards. But let me know if you guys have ever heard of this Rediscovering Yourself spread. Is this one that you would use in your own kind of journaling practice, your own kind of personal practice? Do you like using your cards for this kind of tattling on yourself kind of vibe? Or do you prefer to just kind of sit with yourself and kind of see what comes up first? Or do you like to kind of have something to kind of bounce off of? Because for me, I find that this is a much easier way for me to process some of these more challenging aspects of things that I've experienced or things that I'm kind of maybe forgetting to kind of pay attention to. And it helps me kind of metabolize the information in a way that feels a little bit more aligned for me. So I want to say thank you so much for joining me. Please take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. So make good choices. Bye.